House Ways and Means Committee Republicans are set to meet with top Treasury official Ken Keyes this morning. The focus is going to be on the Trump administration's implementation of tax provisions in the Big Beautiful Bill. Joining me now is Oklahoma Congressman Kevin Hern. He's a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. You do chair the House Republican Policy Committee, sir. So, many of these new tax provisions leave room for interpretation by Treasury's tax lawyers. So walk us through what we can expect today from this meeting. And I'm assuming that no tax on tips might be on your agenda today.
Well, thanks for having me. You're right. We know that taxes and tax policy drives the economy. Bad tax policy destroys the economy. We saw that under Joe Biden. And what we're going to work with the Treasury today is see how quickly we can get no tax on tips and no tax on overtime and the rules around that implemented as quickly as possible. You know the American people are hurting badly when we see what's happened over the last 4 years under Joe Biden. When he took office in January of 21, inflation was 1.4%. Interest rates, the Fed rate was near zero. And since then, we've seen grocery prices rise by some 30%, home prices by 40%, mortgage rates go from 3% to almost 7%. It's almost impossible to live in this country. So the president, working with Congress, we're trying to get more money in the people's pockets so they can afford this. They don't want to pay taxes to a government that's going to go out there and crush them, and they don't want to be subsidized. Just leave the money in their pocket, and so we want to do this as quickly as possible.
But I think, my question, too, with the fact that there is this open interpretation of the Big Beautiful Bill, the Act, so, is there a concern from you and other members of the committee, your colleagues, that Treasury could push back on, particularly that list of occupations of those that are going to be eligible for no tax on tips, or other parts of the Big Beautiful Bill? You can put something into law, but if it's open to interpretation by a lawyer at Treasury, there's a risk there that, kind of frankly jeopardizes a promise that President Trump has made.
Well, we've got to remember also that the Treasury Secretary Bessent works very closely with the president, worked very closely with us at Ways and Means. Secretary Bessent was in our Ways and Means policy working hours many times over. We spent some 90 hours working on this policy to get it there. And again, if you look at what President Trump inherited, it's much like what President Reagan inherited from Carter with, all the inflation. President Carter destroyed the economy. President Reagan took him almost 6 years. President Trump's trying to do this in 6 months. And so we're working really hard. We're going to work with Treasury. We want to get this done. We want to get it done now.
Okay. Well, there is a lot of work to be done right now with a short session. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is now signaling bipartisan talks have a long way to go to prevent a government shutdown. There's just 9 legislative days left. Watch this.
Republicans can continue to go at it alone. They can continue to bow down to Donald Trump. They can continue to surrender Congress's constitutional powers over the executive and enable Donald Trump and his evil minion, Russell Vought, as they illegally cancel and steal congressional-approved funding. And we Democrats will not accept that. We won't bail Republicans out as the cost of health care, groceries, school supplies, rent, electricity, automobiles all go up and up and up. We Democrats don't want to see a government shutdown. But avoiding one means Republicans have to show they are serious about having real, substantive, serious negotiation.
2 things come to mind with that statement from him, Congressman. First, the issue of foreign aid, which the Democrats have been vocal on, and the other is Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, to be clear.
Yeah. When you hear Chuck Schumer talk these days, all you're hearing him say is we want to shut down the government because they have the power to keep it open. We need 7 Democrat votes on the Senate side. We may have the control in the House and the White House. We have the majority in the Senate, but the control is 60 votes. And Schumer has a decision to make. Does he want to keep the government open and work with Republicans to do the right thing for America, or does he want to close it down and try to explain to America why he's afraid of his left, and maybe he's going to get primaried by somebody that doesn't like the fact that he is trying to do the right thing, which is keep the government open. So he's got a lot of explaining to do. And I would tell you the distrust among Americans to see him speaking about going and not wanting to close down the government. It's just simply not true. That's exactly what he wants to do.
Well, I question that just because, anyone knows that the political cost to be the party that causes a shutdown is going to be great, especially as we're looking at the midterms next year. So I'm sure that is on the senator's mind. At the same time, let's talk about this CR issue because, while it seems like we're going to get a CR, that's the general, I think consensus from your colleagues that have been coming onto the program. At the same time, it's the time frame that seems to be unclear and that's being debated right now. You've got some of your colleagues want a short-term CR. The White House is pushing for a 1-year CR. So where do you land?
Well, I'm going to let my dear friend Tom Cole, my colleague from Oklahoma, work with the Speaker, work with the White House to get the right scenario that works out for all of us with Senator Thune. But I want to go back to what Chuck Schumer said. Just because he is saying he doesn't want one, they hate Donald Trump so badly they're willing to shut down the government. You think about it for a second. They hate him so badly that they're pushing back on cleaning up D.C. They hate him so badly that they're pushing back on him closing down Chicago streets where 600 people were killed last year. They hate him so badly they went after him when he tried to close the border. They hated him so badly when he blew up the ship bringing fentanyl to America. This Democrat Party, this Democrat leadership hate him so badly they're willing to jeopardize America for their hate of him.
Well, at the same time, you have to wonder if, because you listen to some of the on the appropriations side as well, I'm a little in the weeds here, but like Representative Ryan Zinke, a lot of that budget work could be removed or kind of pushed to the side if you do just a clean CR.
Well, I think we're going to get close to that. And I know right now I just had a leadership meeting yesterday afternoon. We're moving very closely to that. Again, there's probably no one wiser about how Congress works than Tom Cole of Oklahoma, the appropriations chair. I knew he's moving quickly toward the resolution that we need and get it done before the end of the month. Again, we're trying to fight against a Chuck Schumer who wants to shut down the government by not helping at all. And so trying to find the right path, which means basically they want to shut Donald Trump and Russ Vought completely out of the conversation. That's just not going to happen. He is the president. Russ is the OMB director. We have to work with the White House just as we do with any administration. So we got to get there. We're going to work on it. We're going to get there. I believe we're going to get there very quickly.
Where are we at with the rescissions package? Do you think that there's bipartisan support for that $5 billion rescissions package? That is, of course, coming from President Trump and the administration. It's very important to them.
Well, I think so. And, timing will be everything, of course. But it is, if you think about it from the American people standpoint, the people watching this show today, we had $2 trillion in deficits this year, and we're fussing and fighting over whether or not we can cut $9 billion or $5 billion. It seems like, couch money that's sitting under the cushion. And in respects to how big the problem really is, we're over $37.5 trillion in debt now. The president wants to get this economy under control. He wants to get this deficit and debt issue under control, as do I. I spent 4 years working on budgets with the Republican Study Committee, balancing budgets, seeing what it looks like. We've got a lot of work to do, and we're moving very slowly in that direction. And so when you combine that with tariff income, when you combine that with what the president's trying to do to shrink the size of government, push money back to the citizens of the states, Democrat and Republican, then that's the right move, and we've got to get there very quickly.
With 9 days left. Congressman Kevin Hern, we're going to be watching. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We have got a lot more.